Good evening and welcome to the Township of Woolwich regular meeting of council on August 25th, 2026. Welcome to people here in the gallery and everyone watching on YouTube. This beginning portion of the meeting, we're meeting as council for urgent matters or routine items that typically do not require as much discussion. The decisions council makes in this portion of the meeting are final. If anyone in the community has questions about the final decisions made tonight, please reach out to staff. For roll call, I'll just say that all of council is here in the council chambers tonight. Before we start, though, we need to reconvene in open session. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Grant, Councillor Bryant. All those in favor, that's carried. Thank you. Just a couple of things as we open. The Kitchener Rangers are hosting the Saginaw Spirit and a special exhibition game on Labor Day, Monday, September 7th at 2 p.m. right here in Woolwich at the Woolwich Memorial Centre. If you're a hockey fan and want to take in some Junior A action, that would be a good opportunity. And also noting that unfortunately summer is coming to an end and kids are going back to school. And so just to remind everyone to watch for children, be patient, and pay attention. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. The Township of Woolwich acknowledges with deep respect that the land we call home has existed since time immemorial, long before our communities were formed and long before we arrived here. Indigenous peoples have had a deep and lasting relationship with this land, caring for it, learning from it, and living alongside all it sustains. We are grateful to the First Peoples who have lived on and cared for this land and who continue to do so today. In particular, we recognize the Chinatan, also known as the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee people. We honor their deep connection to this land, and we acknowledge their wisdom and resilience and leadership. These communities have protected and cared for the land with respect, responsibility, and a sense of shared trust. As we move forward, we hope to build a future based on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and stronger relationships with one another. May we continue to learn together, to care for each other, and to honor all those who share this place with us. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, there are no items to come forward from closed. We do have 2 delegations on the agenda tonight. Please keep to the time limit posted on the agenda, and there is a timer on the screen. There will be a timer on the screen, and you'll hear a warning sound when you have 1 minute left, and again when your time is up. Once you're finished, you can turn your mic off and video, if you're remote, and if you're here, you're welcome to stay for as long as you wish. The first item is the Bloomingdale Community Center and Region of Waterloo Library Branch update, and I will call on Director of Recreation and Community Services, Jessica Stoven, and Recreation Manager, Marie Malcolm.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. This evening, Recreation and Community Services is presenting report R10 2026 Bloomingdale Community Center and Region of Waterloo Library Branch update. This report is a follow-up to report R03 2026, where staff had proposed the possible relocation of the library branch to the Bloomingdale Community Center. Following Council's directive, staff have engaged in additional consultation with Bloomingdale residents and community representatives, the Bloomingdale United Church, and the Region of Waterloo Library. Through these conversations, the community further expressed their strong desire to retain the community center as a community gathering place. This is being demonstrated through the reestablishment of the Bloomingdale Recreation Association, which has brought together a group of enthusiastic volunteers who are committed to providing community events and programs. As a result, staff are recommending that the library remain at the United Church, and the council authorize staff to negotiate a new long-term lease with the church in consultation with the Region of Waterloo Library. Accessibility will also be an important consideration as part of the lease negotiations. Any required improvements will be reviewed jointly with the church and the region, with staff seeking an appropriate cost-sharing arrangement. With the library remaining at the church, the Bloomingdale Community Center will continue to be available for community use. Therefore, staff are also recommending that council direct staff to continue promoting and optimizing on the use of the center and continue to support the newly established Recreation Association. Staff will also be proposing through the 2027 budget process additional funding to support program enhancements at the community center and provide support to the Bloomingdale Recreation Association. Overall, the recommendation before council reflects what we heard through the additional community engagement, which is to maintain local library services while also creating an opportunity to strengthen the use of the Bloomingdale Community Center. Thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Stoven?
Thank you. Just a comment. I want to thank you for that report. I know the residents are very happy with the outcome of this, and I think it's great to keep that community center going. So thank you on behalf of Bloomingdale.
Anyone else? Okay, we do have one delegation on this item, so I'll call on Deanna Zenger from the Bloomingdale Recreation Association. Welcome.
Thank you. Our purpose for being here this evening, and I also have committee member Robin Neer, enthusiastic committee member Robin Neer, is to thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, and especially a huge thank you to the support that we've had from staff. They've literally gone above and beyond. So we as a community are very thankful to be able to continue with the rec center and engage with one another. We had that horrible period of time called COVID, and where we all just went our separate ways, but now we're together again, and that's thanks to you. So our purpose here is to answer any questions, but also just to say a warm thank you. We really appreciate what you've done here.
Okay, thank you. It was a very energetic meeting when I was there and you met, and it was encouraging to see people coming together again, because yeah, COVID has separated us in many ways. Councillor Schwinn.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a full house at the Bloomingdale Center that night. And I'm curious if you can share some of your plans for the next period of time on how we can revitalize the association events that are happening in Bloomingdale, needs and strengths you think you have and your plan to move forward.
Well, since we had that very energetic meeting, we've had a strawberry social, which we had a huge attendance, and thank you all for attending. That was wonderful. And as the committee has come together and we've selected our rules, we also had at the social, we had a survey that went out to everyone that was in attendance and also to community members that were not in attendance, asking what their wishes are. So we are in the process of compiling what our neighbors want us to do. And we have some ideas as well. And that compilation is in process. I don't have it to bring with council today, but there'll be neighborhood gatherings. We're looking at a few classes, some things that are educational, some things that are sports oriented, some things with youth, because we have some young individuals, some new blood in Bloomingdale. So we'd like to do some things that are just totally neighborhood centric and bring everything back together again. So we can update you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Burgess.
Everybody's been saying it, but through you, Mayor Shantz, I just want to say thanks a lot for all the work you did, for coming to delegate many times and bringing the community together. It was great to see them all work together and revive the Recreation Association. And yeah, thanks for the invite to the Strawberry Social too. It was great.
Thanks for coming.
There is a recommendation. Someone want to move it? Councillor Grant, Councillor Bryant, all those in favor, and that is carried.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Our next item is a warning signage for Miranda Path and Kissing Bridge Drive, and I'm going to call on Councillor Cadeau to introduce this motion.
Thanks, Mayor. Excuse me, through you, I've had the opportunity to engage with some residents, Jason and Alicia, and they've requested some signage in their neighborhood to alert drivers to exercise caution. Now, they've requested 2 specialized signs that indicate there's a child, that being their daughter Michaela, with autism in the community. I want to say thanks to staff for carefully examining, what options are available, kind of benchmarking across the region to see what other jurisdictions are doing. And so we came to the conclusion that this motion is probably the best way forward. I know that there are still some logistical issues related to the assumption of roads from the developers, as well as we've implemented a 10-year sunset clause so that these signs don't just remain up indefinitely, but they do have an opportunity to come down. So I know that Jason and Alicia are here to delegate, so I'll turn it over to them. And if there's any questions after, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions.
Okay. Jason and Alicia?
Hi, my name's Alicia. My husband had to step out and chase our daughter down the road, which is kind of why we're here today.
A little ironic.
Yeah. So I just shared a couple of photos with you from our neighborhood. Obviously, the developers have kind of up and left in the last little bit. This is our daughter Michaela and her siblings in the pool. Not at our house, at Grandma and Grandpa's house, thankfully. So we started this conversation with Councillor Cadeau, who has been amazing to deal with, wonderful, about putting up the autistic child at play sign in October 2025. Because what we've noticed is we're busy families. Most of the neighborhood knows Michaela, but a lot of people don't. And while I'm cooking dinner, while one of us is in and out, we have to pop in the house sometimes while she's out scootering or playing. Again, like I said, he just had to go kind of see where she was down the street. And we felt that a sign that was official from the township would be very helpful in warning drivers, warning neighborhood community members that there is someone with special needs in this neighborhood who maybe can't communicate with you. So that's the big piece of why we were looking at a sign that specifically said autistic child at play, because communication is a huge part of our life that a lot of people don't understand. And Michaela cannot communicate with people who are driving by or waving or trying to interact with her to tell her to cross the street or not cross the street. So we thought that that might be a helpful tool for us to keep our children safe, specifically our child who cannot communicate with others. So that's why we're here today, to advocate for that sign at Kissing Bridge and Hayden, and I think Kissing Bridge and Miranda Path, or sorry, Miranda Path and Hayden. That's the road that kind of leads right up to our area. Mm-hmm. That's all I have.
Thank you. I had to find my on button. Are there questions for Ms. Alicia? Ms. Elvins?
That's okay.
Are there questions? No, I'm not seeing any. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. And there is a recommendation here. I don't know, Councillor.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll move the motion. Happy to answer any other questions. I suppose one question I have for staff is the assumption limitation. Can staff speak to what the process is going to be like in order to get this started?
Who would be speaking? Mr. Poupet?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau, I unfortunately am not going to be able to speak directly to the ins and outs of the assumption process, other than it, as the motion states, that I think there's some review to be done. Just for the record, assumption means that is not under the care and control of the township right now. It is currently under the warranty period of the developer, appreciating in this particular case, though, that the development has been on pause for some time. So that period has extended. And I think we're starting to see movement there. I think there was some paving work done not that long ago. So we would anticipate things moving towards the warranty period and ultimate assumption. But that therein lies the challenge. I think staff were just waiting to see what council's direction was before expending a lot of time and effort to determine what can and can't be done during the warranty period while it is under the care and control of the developer.
Okay, any other questions? Counselor Burgess.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Cadeau, just one quick question. Point 1E there, remove the signs after 10 years without further direction from council, unless the council today requests and approves an extension. Do you want that automatic, or do you want something in there that just says staff to confirm with us before any action's taken?
The intention is that's automatic. It will just come down after 10 years.
Seconded by Counselor Grant. Mr. Smith.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, I think we noticed a slight typo on the resolution. So just for council's benefit, if the mover and seconder are okay with it. Section 1D, ensure the signs, number 1, advise motorists to exercise increased caution around children without, and it would just end there. Advise motorists to exercise increased caution around children.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, no. Without identifying any individual or household.
Correct.
But
There
the
was,
last 2 words need to come out.
thank you, Mr. Clerk.
all right, all those in favor? And that's carried, so that will, did we have a time on that? I guess you'll sort of follow up with that. Okay, thank you. Counselor Burgess.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Shantz, through you. Thanks, Councillor Cadeau, for bringing forward that important motion there. We were just talking about signs in that area around Riverside School, and I just wanted to inform the public or point out that there were some other requests from residents about signage in front of Riverside School along William there at the roundabouts. It was for school crossing. Some of the kids, they were worried it's a busy street when all the cars are leaving and everything, and kids running across. So staff are looking at getting some crosswalk signage and marking out on the streets there at the roundabout. So that'll be coming in the near future just for more safety along William Street there.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 consent items. Does anyone want to pull anything from the agenda? No, someone want to move them? Counselor Bryant, Counselor Grant, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. There's no unfinished business. Our first item, we have Director of Corporate Services and Strategic Initiatives and Clerk Jeff Smith to present his memo.
Thank you very much, Mayor Shantz. So on Monday, I certified all the nominations that I received for the election. Shortly after that, I'm required under the Municipal Elections Act to calculate, actually, sorry, it's the Municipal Act, to calculate if council is restricted from taking certain actions for the rest of their period. This is also known as the lame duck period. So as of yesterday, the restricted acts do apply to Woolwich Council, since it's not possible for the new council to have more than 3 members of the outgoing council return. What that means is that council is restricted from appointing or removing a municipal officer, hiring or dismissing an employee, selling property or equipment worth more than $50,000, or spending or incurring any liability more than $50,000 not included in the budget. There are, however, delegated authorities provided to the CAO and to staff to ensure business continues during this period. So what I do now is that I will review the agenda, the council agenda, and ensure that everything on your agenda is appropriate under the lame duck period. I have done that. In my opinion, every staff recommendation on the agenda, council could still pass this evening. Of course, if council has any questions about this, please let me know, and I'm happy to provide my advice. That's it. Happy to answer any questions, though.
Are there questions? No, seeing none. Thank you for that. Additional levy, Director of Finance and Treasurer Colin Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz, and through you to council. I'm not looking forward to presenting this report. Unfortunately, it's not good news. It's an additional levy. So during the preparation of the 2026 tax bills, or shortly after the preparation of the 2026 tax bills, we discovered that there was a shortfall in the billing amount of approximately $170,000. We only figured this out when we were preparing the 2027 budget, and we had to look at the 2026 number and reconcile those templates. Just for council's clarity, this is not new spending. It's a billing correction for amounts that council already approved. Why it happened, the primary driver really was assessment growth. As council will remember during the calculations of the budget, we do a deduction for assessment growth. Really, that calculation needs to be manually adjusted into the tax bill calculation. And previously, it was one individual that did that calculation, and he was less involved in the calculation this year. And there wasn't really a documented process. Also, with the strong mayors, there was some changes in the way we calculated the tax levy. Again, we're trying to make sure this never happens again. So we've developed a reconciliation process, and hopefully with new additional software, this will limit the potential for these kinds of issues. However, we're left with the current issue right now where we're short on the revenue amount billed by approximately $170,000. So during this, staff created kind of 3 different options of how we might address this potential shortfall. None of them are good issues. Staff recommended to council what we would say is the best of the worst options. None of these understanding are good for our residents or for staff for this. Our first option we considered was absorbing the shortfall in 2026. We would have to still make up that revenue shortfall, and the recommendation would be through operating contingency. We would have sufficient reserves in that operating contingency. However, that would reduce the amount available for other potential deficits. One thing that we've noticed is we would potentially have additional either supplementary taxes or investment income by the end of the year, but we won't actually know that right now, so we can't say that that's a definitive funding source. However, if we did have surplus revenue, we would top back up that reserve fund. The con of that, obviously, is the reduction of the reserve balances. Council have been very cognizant of that balance. So we wouldn't necessarily want to reduce those reserve balances. The other issue is we would still have the issue of the 2027 tax levy would be starting at a lower position. So if you were just looking at potential increases for next year, we would still have to make up that $170,000 difference. So that's the main reason why staff didn't recommend option 1. Option 2 would be to send out corrected tax bills to residents. Just again, for clarity, the rough amount we're estimating, it's close to a 1% tax rate increase, somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $15 per household, depending on the assessment value. To send out those kind of bills, we would have to send them out to all of the household roughly and businesses and roughly 10,000 tax bills. That would cost roughly $16,000 to send out postage and everything else to those bills and to process that. We didn't think that was a viable option just because of the administrative cost and the staff time involved in sending out tax bills. The third option that staff are recommending, again, not a ideal option, but the one that staff are recommending, is to add an addition onto the 2027 interim tax bills as a past due amount. This gets a little bit technical, but essentially we get 2 interim bills and then 2 final tax bills. So in the interim bills, there'd be 2 tax bills, and it'd be roughly $6 to $7 on each of the interim tax bills as a past due amount. The reason that has to be listed as a past due amount and not just blended into the 2027 potential amount, the Municipal Act restricts us from collecting taxes in a current year for past taxes. So this is the way we would kind of get around that. We wouldn't charge penalty and interest. Obviously, there was no fault of any of the residents, and we would go back and try to collect this money, and we would just list it as a 2026 amount owed and just add it to the interim tax bills. So that's why staff are recommending option 3, but again, open to any questions. Teresa, unfortunately, is on vacation tonight, but I'm here to answer any questions that staff may have related to this issue or to recommend any other options.
Thank you. Are there questions? Councillor Cadeau.
Yeah, between a rock and a hard place, I think is a good way to to describe this situation. I guess my question with option 3, your third bullet there, it'd be difficult to explain a 2026 related charge to new owners receiving their interim tax bill. What are we proposing to do for that? Say I sell my house and somebody new moves in and then they see that there is this charge from 2026 on their bill. What are we telling them?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, we would obviously deal with that on a case-by-case basis, but a communication plan we would definitely want to develop before we send out those interim tax bills. We had suggested because it would be roughly another $1,000 to produce inserts that would accompany that tax bill, hopefully clearly explain some of the situation that I've just outlined. So that would explain some of those with some frequently asked questions. That would help. Again, that would all be part of the actual tax bill, so there wouldn't be any extra mailing costs. There would be some printing costs, but we would also post the information on social media and the website as soon as the tax bills go out. It probably wouldn't be until February of next year, just to remind people. We could potentially, on a case-by-case basis, in the scenario that Councillor Cadeau had indicated, for the small dollar amount, we may want to waive $6 or $12 for residents if it's going to be an issue like that for new residents.
Councillor Bryant and then Councillor Schwint.
Thank you. Would you be able to flag this like you could when they do the sewer levies? If a lawyer was doing a title search, that there is this small amount owing, and explain to them at that point in time why it's there? Because I think that might be the safer option. That way, if somebody's selling a house, it's going to be flagged that there is a small charge that will show up on their new bills.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, that is one of the advantages of going option 3. We would essentially say that that amount is owing right now, but they just haven't been billed it. Again, we had to investigate this. There wouldn't be any penalties and interest because it's showing as a past due amount. But right now they would owe that money. Anyone could actually pay that amount right now without getting the tax bill, but most would obviously pay it when they actually paid the tax bill. But for those phone calls, it would show up in the amount owed.
Councillor Schwint, Councillor Burgess.
Yeah, this is a frustrating conversation because we wrap our heads around budget for several months and keep on getting hits throughout the year. But I think we're trying to be too cute on this one. We set a budget. We're hopefully going to meet the budget in terms of expenses. I say hopefully because I know our capital budget, if we're within 10% of the capital budget each year, that's impressive for us. So we're at 1% on the revenue side. It's not material to our budget. However, it's going to be very material to anybody refinancing their house because they're going to have to explain to their bank why there's past due taxes showing up and more phone calls. As Councillor Cadeau said, buying and selling a house. So I'm of the opinion option 1 is the cleanest, simplest way to fix this problem this year. And reserves go down $180,000. Township's going to eat that much in reserves this year, but we're taking it on the chin for our taxpayers in one pocket out the other, and saves a whole lot of explanations to banks and buyers and sellers of houses. Let's keep it simple.
Councillor Burgess.
Sorry. Just a quick question. If council were to choose option 3, I know for reassessments, if you're on auto withdrawal, that's not included and you have to make a separate payment. Would this be a separate payment or would it get caught up in the auto withdrawal that you don't have to pay attention to it?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, honestly, Teresa, our manager of revenue, would probably best understand that piece, but I do believe that the auto withdrawal would just incorporate this amount and there wouldn't have to be anything new, that we would just adjust that automatic withdrawal amount.
Can you remind me the balance in the reserve that if we go with number 1, it would come from?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, I anticipated this question. I just checked. Based on the most recent information, I'm not sure if all of the potential draws, I'm pretty sure most of them are in there, but we should have 900,000 in the operating contingency reserve for this.
Thank you, Councillor Grant.
Thank you. I'm much of the same mind as Councillor Schwinn. I feel that we made a mistake here and that the cleanest and easiest option is for us to just take the hit and pull from our reserves.
Councillor Cadeau.
I would tend to share that opinion. I guess my concerns noted in the report as well is the 2027 budget and what are we going to do to make up that difference? Because it would be an increase to that tax bill, correct? Just to get even to where we were this year.
Through you, Mayor Shantz. Honestly, staff had this exact debate and we did choose option 3 as the least worst of the options, but can certainly understand both the resident and the customer impact of option 1. One of the deciding factors was that impact on 2027, that potentially now we have to, that's a one-time reserve draw. Now we're actually short that 170,000. So just to get us back to 0, we would have to add a 1% to the existing levy because the historic levy is 170,000 short.
That's a one-time thing, like the, so I think what you said is the actual budget is correct. So when we go to budget next year, we would be starting from the correct place. It's just that our reserve, we didn't bill enough. It's not that it's not in our books.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, hopefully I can explain this because I know it is a little bit confusing. It is just a billing issue. The budget set was correct. So we just didn't collect enough revenue to hit that budget target. So this, again, this is an additional amount. The 170,000 from a reserve draw would make us whole in 2026, and then we wouldn't need any additional revenue. Hopefully we would find other sources. But then in 2027, the amount of tax levy that we would need to fund our existing program would be 1%, $170,000 short, because unless we reduced our budget, we wouldn't have that $170,000 in revenue because we would have to increase our budget just to hit a 0% by 170,000 to maintain existing operations.
Okay, I'll leave it. Go ahead, Councillor Schwinn.
Basically, we set a budget increase this year 1% too low on our tax rates than we should have. And all this option 3 would do is kind of mask that for the public. So we got away with a percentage increase this year, not having that 1% next year. Option 1, we got 1 more percent. We're going to take it on the chin, or the new council is going to take it on the chin, but the money needs to come in. So this is a lot more transparent, I think, putting in next year's budget.
Okay.
And through you, Mayor Shantz, just as an additional item, again, it's really up to council. It's the impact on the future years tax increase. Like it would be a 1% increase for next year just to get back to 0. But yeah.
We'll talk afterwards. I understand what you're saying, but I want you to understand what I'm saying. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you. I'm with Colm. I say we have to go with number 3 because you can't, basically you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You need the money this year, holding it back and then making it up next year. You're just increasing next year's tax base. So you might as well just do it, get what's owed. And it's been explained to the residents that was what was owed for their taxes. You're just collecting what hasn't been put on their bill properly. So I'm not in favor of going with 1. They owe the money. Unfortunately, nobody likes tax increases, but you're not increasing anything. You're just collecting what was originally owed. So it's hard to explain, but I think we go with option 3.
Okay, there's a recommendation here. Does someone want to move it or move something different? First off, Councillor Bryan.
Thank you. I would make a recommendation that we go with option 3.
There's a seconder for that.
Nobody wants 3?
No, is there another, is there another recommendation? Councillor Schwint.
Oops, my mic, sorry. I will move option 1 reluctantly, but we've got to pay the piper.
Is there a seconder for that, Councillor Cadeau? Although, any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Thank you. And the next one, Moonlight Madness. Road and parking lot closure. Director of Development Services, Deanne Fries.
Good evening, Council. This report is a follow-up to the August 11th presentation by our economic development staff with a request to support the road closure and the parking lot closure for Moonlight Madness event. In order to expand the event, the BIA has requested that the township support the closure of Mill Street, the closure of the parking lot at Mill Street and Memorial, and removal of snow for the event. The recommendation is asking for support from council for the closures, as well as directing staff to work with the BIA to get the permits that are necessary to help with enforcement on the parking lot closure, to work with the BIA to get quotes and provide information for the services required, and to bring forward a MAT tax request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Cadeau.
More comment, but Curtis isn't here, but Mr. Wells has been instrumental in bringing this report forward, and it'd be remiss not to thank him. So thank you, Curtis. I also note that Dana Costello is in the audience, and she was here when the previous report was presented. And I would just wonder if council would entertain if she would be willing. I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you want to speak to this? No? And if not, then I'll let it go.
So questions can be for Ms. Fries or Ms. Costello. And I'm not seeing any. Someone want to move this? Councillor Cadeau, seconded by Councillor Grant. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Look forward to it. Whoops, I'm stroking off things I didn't do. Oh, we are, okay, turning the page. So we have 3 bylaws. Would someone like to move them? Councillor Grant, Councillor Cadeau, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. That concludes the council portion of the meeting. We'll take a 5-minute recess and I will turn the chair over to Councillor Cadeau.
Welcome back. We are now meeting as Committee of the Whole for items that require more debate and discussion. We won't be making final decisions on these items, but proposing recommendations for next council meeting. If anyone in the community has feedback on these recommendations, we encourage you to reach out to staff or submit comments to council before a final decision is made at the next meeting. For our first item, I will call upon Human Resources Supervisor Shelley Noble, the Director of Corporate Services and Strategic Initiatives, to speak to this first report, C10 2026. So Shelley, if you're on when you're ready.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will get started. Shelley Noble is our Human Resources Supervisor, and she is on vacation while her policies are being presented, but she did want to be available for any questions that council may have. So she is here if you do have any questions. I'm going to do my best at controlling this slide deck. Oh, there we go. So in addition to Council's consideration of Report C10 2026 on your last agenda, you had requested additional information to support your consideration of the proposed Phase 1 HR policy amendments. Tonight's presentation responds directly to those questions. We won't be reviewing the original report, but happy to answer any questions on that. Oops. So the first thing I wanted to go over, this slide shows municipal vacation comparisons. So it shows it alongside municipal and unionized comparators selected for a similar size, geographic labor market, and organizational comparability. In short, the township is generally at or below our comparators, especially at the start of an employee's career. For longer service employees, we are relatively strong. The township considers both the starting entitlement and how vacation progress through an employee's career. It is important because the current township framework has developed over time, and the proposed changes are focused primarily on progression and consistency rather than increasing the maximum vacational entitlement. The comparative information also provides context for recruitment considerations. When the township is recruiting candidates who have the qualifications and experience required for specialized or regulated positions, vacation can form part of the overall employment package candidates consider alongside benefits, compensation, career opportunity, flexibility, and vacation. However, vacation isn't the sole factor affecting recruitment and retention. It can provide comments for and justification for the staff recommendation. This next slide here shows an example of how lieu time can be worked when it is required for operational purposes and banked, and then employees can use time later. Staff recognize that lieu balances require appropriate management. The objective is to ensure that additional hours are necessary, authorized, recorded, monitored, and appropriately scheduled. To strengthen this process, the township has introduced the additional hours worked pre-approval form, establishing clear authorization processes before additional hours are worked. Regular reporting of overtime and lieu balances will provide managers with greater visibility into outstanding balances and emerging trends. Managers will be responsible for reviewing those balances, discussing workload and scheduling with employees, and ensuring that earned time is appropriately managed. These measures strengthen accountability and provide managers with better tools to proactively manage additional hours and associated lieu balances. So I also wanted to provide just an overview of some of the options that council could consider tonight. Of course, option one is the staff recommendation, which is to approve all Phase 1 HR policies, including the proposed vacation entitlement framework. I think that was really what council was most focused on at our last meeting. If, for example, you still had issues with the proposed vacation framework, option two might be to approve all policy updates and direct staff to return with an alternative vacation entitlement framework. If there was something you wanted in between what we're proposing and what we have right now. If council didn't want to make any changes to the vacation entitlement, staff would propose option 3, which would be to approve Phase 1 policies, including the updated language and change to the calendar year of vacation time while maintaining the current vacation entitlement. And if there were issues with the policy, Option 4 is to decline the proposed phase 1 policy amendments, either all or in part. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions or try to defer to Shelley.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. I would like to get some clarity on one item in here. It's page 84 on the report. I think it's page 93 of the package. It's the illness and leave of absence impacts. It says employees who become ill or injured during an approved vacation period may request that applicable sick leave credits be substituted for vacation leave. Does this mean if you get injured while you're on vacation, say you fall out of a tree and break an arm, you can just say, I've been injured, I don't want to use my vacation time, I'm going to take it as sick time instead? Like, I'm finding that a little bit confusing and a little concerning.
Shelley, are you there to answer that? I could venture a response.
I am.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Bryant. No, what this means is a pre-planned vacation. If you get sick prior to going on your pre-planned vacation, then you may substitute it. If I'm on vacation and get injured, I cannot call and say that I would like to switch it at that point. It is prior to, if I get sick and I'm unable to take my vacation.
Okay, then the way this is worded, it says during right in the policy. So I think that needs to be changed if that is the case, because the way this is worded, you could get injured while on vacation, because it says specifically during. I think that needs to be changed.
I will, yes. I think part of it, it does say during, you are correct. Because if I end up in hospital, ill, very ill, then we could review it on a case-by-case basis. But we do require documentation and confirmation. If I get injured and I'm able to continue my vacation, no, I cannot call up and say I would like to switch it out. We do require the required documentation to prove that there is an illness and you were not able to take your vacation or continue it.
I'm just playing with this. I'd like that section pulled out if we're approving policies, because that one to me is, the wording needs to be adjusted, I think.
We can do that.
Is it
Thank you.
something that you would like to adjust now or just completely pull it?
Well, if it can be adjusted now, I think the word during needs to come out.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Councillor Schwinn.
Thanks. I think there was general acceptance for most of the changes at that last meeting, other than the vacation part of it. And from my knowledge, could someone remind me, is staff bringing back another report on pay scales and rates in the near term?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we are proposing during the budget process to conduct a compensation review, but that review was removed from the 2026 budget. So it would have to be up to council to consider that during the 27 budget process.
The reason I bring that up is it seems that we always seem to be reviewing our HR and compensations and stepping up too steep a hill for me personally anyway. So I'd be a lot more comfortable if we've reviewed vacation entitlements along with pay grids and scales at the same time and look at it more holistically. Otherwise, we seem to be just keeping on adding, and we know going into the 27 budget, we're short on funds as it is, and this to me may exacerbate the problem. So my suggestion is to go with option 3, subject to review with the pay scales in the 27 budget.
Councillor Burgess.
Thank you. Through you, Councillor Cadeau, Chair Cadeau. I concur with Councillor Schwint there. I don't want to be piecemealing this all together and think we should look at it holistically. Also, as we just learned from the clerk, for lame duck, which we're in now, we're not supposed to spend or incur any liability more than 50,000, not included in the budget. And I think it's kind of breaking the intent of that bylaw there or policy. I know maybe we have ways around it, but with it in there in the report saying it's gonna have liability of $55,809 and a 161-day change. I think we're kind of shoving this through and we should wait for the new council.
Recommended option is option 1. Any further discussion? Anybody wanting to move something?
I'd make a motion with option 3 with provision that it could be reviewed during any future wage scale and good comparison studies.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Grant. Further discussion? Clerk Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at the page of the policy that Councillor Bryant brought forward. I think the word during could be removed and substituted for before. So if you get sick before a vacation, you could submit to HR to cancel the vacation and take sick time instead. I think if your issue was during, the word before would be better.
Thank you. I do agree, because the way it's worded, you could fall out of a tree on your vacation and all of a sudden I'm going to use sick time and not my vacation time. That's the bigger concern. It's the cost to the township.
So if that's acceptable to the mover and seconder, then I think if that is what I would propose for that word.
Mr. Brenneman?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Not that I would necessarily suggest we need to amend the motion, but I'm wondering if I can get clarification that further to Councillor Schwint referring the vacation to more holistically be viewed as the time of pay, that it sounds like the intent of what council is saying is review compensation and related things like benefits and other things at the same time. So if that's understood to be the general direction, I'm not saying you need to amend the motion, but I think that would be the intent of what's being requested. Pay, vacation, benefits, compensation practices in general.
That was my intent.
Councillor Burgess?
I can just get another point of clarity on that. Last year, council, I think, canceled the staff comparator salary study. So would this proceed automatically, or would this be part of the budget again, looking at all that comparator studies and everything? So it's something that we're going to propose during the budget, and we would still need funding to have an external consultant do that review. So if that proposal for budget 2027 wasn't approved, we would probably have to again propose it in 28, or maybe come up with an alternative, which is providing a change to the vacation or something like that.
Councillor Grant?
I believe it wasn't so much canceled as we recommended deferring it to 2027 so that the new council could have that fulsome information for that decision. So I think when you can put those together with a more fulsome review of vacation time, benefits, and pay, this makes a logical package for me.
Mr. Brennan?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Grant, for the referral, mention of the deferral, because I think the way we saw it at a staff level is this council previously had put us, like many other municipalities, on a 4 or 5 year cycle as part of a review. But last year you chose to defer, not staying on that cycle because of the timing relative to this being the end of one council and expecting a new council to implement something that an old council had dealt with. But I think this council will recall when we dealt with the implementation in the first year, there had been no review since 2006, whereas a lot of municipalities stay on a 4 to 5 year cycle to review their practices and remain competitive.
Any further discussion on this? We'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Ms. Noble, for tuning in during your vacation. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you, Clerk Smith, for helping to bring that one through. Up next, we have Manager of IT Services, Barry Girth. He's here to present his report. Clerk Smith.
Sorry, would you mind, Mr. Chair, if we deferred this item? Mr. Girth is just joining via Zoom.
Certainly. Are we going to circle back to it?
Yes, if we could circle back later tonight, that would be appreciated.
Then for our next report, we'll look at DS 31, 2026. I'll call on Junior Planner, Jonathan Delicali, who is here in the person. So whenever you're ready, Jonathan.
Good evening, Council. I'll try to be quick. So the presentation before you is to speak to the communication tower being proposed for 31 Parkside Drive in St. Jacobs. Okay. I'll ask oh, I'm good now. Okay. So the purpose of the report, again, is to provide council with information regarding a Bell Mobility Tower being proposed on township-owned lands at 31 Parkside Drive in St. Jacobs, which you can see in the aerial photo is the property with the arena and the Lions Club. And you can see the proposed location outlined in red on the aerial photo located behind the tennis court. The tower is expected to address a noticeable service gap in the area and will be able to accommodate future co-location opportunities by other service providers. And with this, council is being asked to provide a resolution indicating that there are no objections with the proposal. Next slide, please. So through the application process, residents within 150 meters of the location were circulated, and a notice was also added to the Woolwich Observer. Commenting period was made available for 30 days to collect feedback from the community, and all comments that were received were provided responses by the applicant to address any concerns. A summary of the consultation was also submitted and was attached to this report. Feedback received included one resident who supported the proposal, noting the poor cellular service, which I'm sure many of you have experienced, as well as two residents nearby who expressed concerns with the visual impact of the tower, as well as park character, potential wildlife impacts, as well as safety and security and proximity to recreational and residential uses. On that note, I would also add that safety and technical matters, though, are not regulated by the township, but through federal requirements, and the applicant has to abide by those. Next slide, please. Thank you. So staff are satisfied that the proposal provides community benefits while minimizing impacts to the township operations and land use. Again, it demonstrates coverage needs. It is located to minimize impacts to recreational facilities. It's located behind the tennis facility. It maintains access to the arena, tennis courts, parking areas, and the park amenities. It is designed to support future co-location for other providers. They've also obtained GRCA approval as they are slightly inside of GRCA's regulation boundary. And it is also expected to generate approximately $20,000 in annual lease revenue, as it is once again located on township lands. So the recommendation before you is for council to advise Bell Mobility and Teletech Structures that the township has no objection to the proposed telecommunications tower at 31 Parkside Drive, and as well to require that a lease agreement satisfactory to the township be executed prior to the permit being issued. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we also have the applicant here.
Thank you, Mr. Delicali. Are there any questions? No, there is a recommendation. Moved by Counselor Grant, seconded by Counselor Schwint. Any discussion on this before I call the question? All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trying to avoid commentary here. I'm doing my best and I will. So up next, I will call on Mr. Lynn, F11 2026, updated sick leave, short-term disability analysis.
Thank you, Chair Cadeau, and through you, I'm just having some technical moment, sharing the presentation. So just a reminder to council, through you, Chair Cadeau, there was being quite a substantial discussion on sick leave and short-term disability at the previous budget meeting. Staff presented a previous report, which did an initial investigation on the feasibility of short-term disability. That initial investigation highlighted that there could be potential cost savings from that review. This report is doing a deeper dive using actual data on that analysis, and it came to different findings that were initially proposed from that report. I just want to share some of the key findings of this, and I'll just walk through some of the items. Also, contained in there is the more technical analysis, but hopefully I'll do a good job of explaining what I would consider a very technical subject matter. So roughly we've had 900 overall sick days used in 2025. Over 65% of staff used less than 10 sick days in 2025 data. And 18% of all the usage was experienced for staff who use consecutive sick events. So really that last number is the important number when we're looking at short-term disability analysis, because it's the consecutive sick events that really drive whether or not that person would be eligible for short-term disability. If someone had more intermittent absences, basically taking a day sick here or there, they wouldn't qualify for short-term disability. It's a continuous period that they could move on to short-term disability, and that is a very small minority of the overall sick leave usage. So one main question that council will have, and staff also had, is what is the difference between the previous report that showed kind of the movement towards a short-term disability program or some financial justification, and the current report, which essentially recommends more of a status quo approach. Really, the main difference is the F17 2025 was based on actuarial data. And I don't want to get too into the specifics of it, but essentially it's based on probability. And based on the probability of the last 10 years data, we normally have a couple users every few years, roughly every 4 or 5 years, use over, say, 100 sick days a year. So that can very much skew the analysis, but we based all of that analysis on that actuarial data based on the probabilities. There was no real differentiation also between these consecutive sick events and a high volume user. So someone may have 20 sick days. We assumed in the previous report that they would be eligible for short-term disability, but doing a more deeper dive in this analysis, a lot of those users may not have been eligible for that short-term disability. So this one, we used actual 2025 historical costs to project the costs of a short-term disability plan. We updated that disability plan or short-term disability quote. We didn't include the top-up salary option, but we did want to show essentially what the premium cost would be versus kind of a self-funded plan. And just to be clear, this is based on a single year of data. With more data would give us better analysis. We're not really sure how 2025 falls within that year of the analysis, but essentially we only use 1 year of data, so it has limited overall results. So again, some of those findings, we delved a little bit deeper and we found that we called them high user sick days. So 8% of staff would have qualified for anyone that used more than 15 sick days. or 40% of those staff would have qualified for short-term disability, and the other 60% wouldn't have qualified for short-term disability. And that's really related to the incidences of sick leave. So this was a surprising finding for us, which actually skews the analysis. And then we provided also in the report the average usage, which is around 7.41 days, which excludes the consecutive sick events. So essentially excludes any of those long-term users. The average usage is obviously a lot higher with those consecutive sick events, but those can also be skewed by very long term users. And because of so for example, the maximum user is 61.7 days. So that obviously skews the one when you include the consecutive sick events, but that 7.41 days excludes kind of anything that would be eligible for short-term disability. So again, just keeping the scope of this analysis in context, we looked at the self-funded cost, which is essentially our current plan. So we also tried to do some escalation factors based on the next 3 years. And we found a roughly $67,000 cost in 2026 for our self-funded plan. And again, just to highlight for council, this is only focused on those 8 users or those high volume users that would be eligible for a short-term disability program. And we compared essentially what would it cost to keep those users with their actual sick days and how much would a benefits provider charge us for that. Plan A is based on they would go on short-term disability after 7 sick days. So it's a higher premium. The option B here, or plan B, they would go on short-term disability at a later date. And so the premiums would be lower because there's more insured coverage. And as you can see through this comparison, in some instances, it's more expensive to go to a short-term disability program. In some instances, it's a little bit less, but really there isn't, I would say, a conclusive financial evidence to move towards a short-term disability program. There's other, and on top of this, there's other, I would say, more important factors, qualitative factors that need to be considered. Those would include the existing sick banks and what we would do with those, potential grandfathering and transition rules, collective agreement provisions. So there's a lot of other factors that would be put into this analysis beyond the financial incentives. So weighing all of those factors, the overall recommendation from staff would be not to immediately in the short term pursue a short-term disability program. That taking with the self-funded approach seems to make financial sense, and there's also those non-financial factors to consider. However, as outlined in the report, one of the more important findings was looking at the high volume users, and these are users over 15 days. So again, that $67,000 estimate was basically all of those staff that would be eligible for short-term disability would cost us roughly $68,000. However, the high volume users that wouldn't be eligible for short-term disability, they use a higher number of days overall, and those salary costs would be much higher. So really, if we were focusing on any users, it wouldn't be the short-term disability eligible staff. It would be really on those incidental users that are using a high volume of sick days that wouldn't be eligible for a short-term disability program. So the way we focus on that would be through kind of attendance management, tightening up on various policies and other kind of options that wouldn't be captured in a short-term disability program. Other findings that we found is a higher volume of usage on our union staff. So union staff made up 45% of all the sick time being used. However, they only make up essentially 1/3 of the employees, so roughly 1.5% or 1.5 times more likely to use sick on the union side than the non-union side. We also found that certain departments have much higher usage than other departments, so it skews kind of some of those results as well. So Essentially, our recommendation would be to focus on high volume users because they're skewing kind of the financial impact, and also on those specific departments and those specific users through more of a policy-driven attendance management program. So again, just some key takeaways to summarize all of that. The difference between the previous report and the current report, the previous one was based on actuarial information. It was based on assuming all the high volume users would be eligible for short-term disability. This one is based on actual data. It's still a small sample size, so we still want to revisit this analysis on a regular basis, potentially with an overall compensation kind of analysis. Right now, there's a limited financial benefit to moving quickly to a short-term disability. There's all those practical barriers that currently exist, transition agreements and large sick banks. Further analysis may form part of future labor negotiations. This work determined that the larger potential savings would be on non-short-term disability eligible staff leaves. So that would be the focus. Work on attendance management, policy enforcement, and those targeted users will likely lead greater financial benefits than moving to a short-term disability program. And then ideally, sick leave would be looked at, just as council previously discussed, would be looked at as part of an overall total compensation package. And this would include vacation, other employee benefits, lieu time, alternative work arrangements, salary, and other compensation. And we would look at this more holistically from a total compensation lens. So that summarizes essentially the report. It's essentially a status quo from the self-funded plan, but more work potentially could be done on attendance management and other tracking tools outside of the short-term disability program. And myself, Director of Corporate Services, and Shelley, I believe, are still available to answer any.
Thank you, Director Lynn. Do we have any questions? Councilor Bryant?
Thank you. One thing I did find as I was doing some research into this is we have a very high number of sick days comparative to other corporations when I started checking into it. Most of the other ones that I spoke with, both some were government and some were private sector, were about 12 days, which included their personal days. So I'm a little concerned with the number of sick days we have in our package. And I think going forward, we need to do more work and continue to focus on who's taking the sick days, why are they taking them? Maybe there's a pattern to what they're doing. I don't know, but I think we need to do more homework on how many days are being used and why they're being used. Because I don't want to see them being abused because these are taxpayers' dollars. So we are accountable for what we are doing. That's just my comment at this point.
Councilor Burgess?
Yeah, through you, Chair Cadeau, I would agree with what Councilor Bryant's saying. Just repeating some of the data there that was spoken about. 900 days is significant. That equates to about 4 full FTE man hours, you could say, for a year, which is quite a bit. And again, the 7.75 or around there, almost 8 days a year, people are taking sick days on average if you're ignoring the long term. That is quite high. So I appreciate you guys talking about putting in some monitoring and looking at that, just like we were reviewing the lieu time. I think we need to kind of keep better track and monitoring of that. Question for you guys, though. It kind of talked about continually reviewing this and looking at this. Do we want to put a timeline on this, given we do want it for part of union negotiations possibly, which is coming up next year? So do we want to kind of have a few months notice there where we can kind of develop a plan if we should set a date on that, or any suggestions?
Through the chair, I can start with it, and anyone else can jump in. I think that may help. We can revisit this analysis and do the same kind of analysis. If any changes were to be made, again, it depends on whether we do it union or non-union side, but they would have to be made through collective agreement bargaining.
Councilor Bryant?
Thank you. Question to Mr. Brenneman. Do the union get the same number of sick days as the non-union, or is there a difference there?
No, it's consistent.
It's consistent. Thank you.
Councilor Burgess?
Through you, yeah, just continuing on that train of thought, it would be nice to kind of on that next report also see how that monitoring is going and what trending you've seen and if anything's changed.
Counselor Schwinn.
I think the monitoring is the most important part of this report and ties in well with our work on loot time and overtime policies. To me, that's one report coming back on whatever that regular basis is. I'd also point out that we're looking at the cost savings. I'm assuming that probably only half of it's extra cash paid by the township in terms of bringing extra staff in. The other half is lost productivity or just more vacation pay, roughly.
Through the chair, I think that's probably reasonably accurate. I would say the union staff are more likely to be backfilled by other union staff. Other positions would just absorb the cost, just less work potentially getting done.
There are 3 recommendations. Maintain the existing sick leave program, continue to review existing sick leave policy with the goal of increasing accountability, and direct staff to perform a further review of the sick leave program as more data becomes available, etc. Just thought I would remind council of that. And Mr. Brenneman, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose sight. It seems council having a discussion with respect to perhaps attaching a time frame. So I guess I would ask for a discussion with Director Lynn as to whether the end of next June would allow for sufficient time, data, etc., to be able to set us up for a proper review time.
Through the chair, I'd say the biggest impediment to doing this analysis is really just getting the data, which should be available hopefully shortly after 2026 year end. So I wouldn't anticipate 6 months would be adequate time to get that analysis prepared.
Yeah, that can certainly be added in if staff are comfortable with it and a mover would like to add that in. Councillor Schwinn.
I just want to follow up on that because we keep on asking for more reports from staff. Is it more efficient to do the loot time, overtime, and sick days together, or are they totally independent of each other?
Through the chair, I do like where Councillor Schwinn's going. I think it is part of an overall package that I think even the data that's provided through our system, it's usually grouped into all of those codes. We could just pick all of the different codes and do a full analysis of all 3 areas. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Councillor Burgess.
Just a point of clarity on that. So we are getting quarterly, I'm not mistaken, on overtime stuff. So is we also going to get quarterly on that, or just kind of keep quarterly for overtime and do the rest in June? Question for you, Lynn.
Through the chair, I think both are possible. Really, it's just another additional field that we would add to the quarterly report if we have lieu, overtime, and sick. That would provide council that ongoing monitoring to track that. For this short-term disability program, we could do an additional analysis, further analysis, but keep up that quarterly reporting and just add in sick to the overtime and lieu reporting that's already available, if that's council's direction.
I can.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm good with all of that. I was just trying to be mindful of more about timeframes relative to be well in advance of future negotiations.
Councillor Burgess.
Thanks. Through you, Chair, I'm good to move that motion with those amendments.
I have a seconder. Councillor Grant, any further discussion on this? Clerk Smith.
Just so I am clear, the third recommendation from the staff report was to direct staff to perform a further review of the sick leave program. I think council wants to add the vacation and the overtime balances before June of 2027 as more data becomes available. And the rest. Sorry, sick time, vacation, and overtime. That was what council, I think I heard.
And through the chair, I believe, and this is up to council, that I heard quarterly monitoring to add to the existing overtime and lieu monitoring for the quarterly reporting.
Yes, thank you. All right, so I got confirmation from the mover and the seconder that all of that is good to go. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, so we will circle back to item 6.1.2, report C09-2026. That is the Manager of IT Services, Barry Girth. Barry, you're up to present your report, please, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you. Again, this is just to be available to answer any questions about the proposed alteration with the job description roles for moving from the strictly help desk role to a software administration / help desk role. And really, it's just starting to align with some of the needs with the corporation in the direction that we're taking with a lot of software needs that are coming forward. So yeah.
Any questions for Councillor Burgess?
Just a comment and a question through you, Chair. Appreciate you guys looking at this. I know we have a lot of new software coming online, and having the IT support there to get it implemented and supported creates good efficiencies and can speed things up. So I really appreciate that and look forward to some of the changes that can be made there. As for a question, I've heard a lot from the public. Woolwich used to outsource a lot of our IT, and I just wondered if Clerk or Barry there could comment on, we've brought some of it in-house, if you could kind of just talk about our positions briefly or why we've brought it in-house.
I can start, Mr. Chair, through you. And if I miss anything, Barry, please feel free to help me out. When I started the township in 2017, we had an outsourced, a hybrid model. So someone was in office providing pretty much a help desk triage support for the requests that were coming in from staff to make sure that we were responding to those inquiries and making sure staff could get on with their day-to-day business. And we had a contracted service. I had identified several concerns with that contracted service and reached out to council to provide them with some options for how to move forward. Council had recommended at the time, and I very much supported it, to move towards an in-house IT department. We were able to recruit Barry shortly after that, and he has been our manager of IT services since then. I can tell you more anecdotally. I've spoken to my colleagues in the cities nearby, and they all have in-house IT departments. The other townships have a combination of a hybrid approach like we used to have, or a fully contracted out support model. I can say, again, anecdotally, that they can find it difficult to get in-person support. So what a lot of these companies do is they try to provide services remotely, which you can do for a lot of software type things. But when someone's computer is broken, when someone's phone doesn't work, peripherals aren't working, you do need in-person support from time to time for those things. And what my colleagues in other municipalities in the townships with the contracted services or hybrid services found that it takes quite a bit longer to respond to that. So I very much support what Barry's brought forward here. As the report notes, this is not a increase to our staff complement. This is a restructuring of an existing position, just because we're at a vacancy right now. And as Barry said, I think it will really set up the township for success when we look at a lot of the big software packages that we're looking at implementing, and a lot of the customizations that we want to do to those software.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At the end of the day, is this revised structure going to cost or save the township money?
I can probably answer that one as well. The proposed structure has some minor cost savings in the hundreds of dollars. It's not significant. Basically, we were working to try to balance it. So we were providing as much support to staff who needed IT help desk support, as much support to software administrators. Many individual township staff in different departments are administering their own software, and we'd really like to be able to support them and provide that support through IT services. as well as keeping the budget as low as possible. So in 2026, savings of $300, it was not a significant savings, pretty much just breaking even.
Director Lynn?
Just to add on to Director Smith's comments there, so there would be a small savings to the tax base, but just in the interest of transparency, there would be an additional cost to self-funded programs or rate-supported programs through the overhead allocation. And just for council's awareness too, we're already probably over allocating some of the costs to that program. So this would place an additional burden on some of those utility and self-funded programs in the future years. 2026, there's no impact, but future years.
Councillor Schwinn?
Unfortunately, I've got a bit of a contrarian opinion tonight on this. We've looked at IT for the last 6 months since some changes in personnel. And I'm glad staff went out and used some creative thinking. I think the township had a big win with the co-op program. Soga Cullen's been a good asset to the township this summer, and we've learned that co-op students are a good way for us to learn from them to learn from us. So hopefully we can continue that going forward. But we brought in the co-op student because we lost a position that was originally a contract position. It was made full-time for various reasons, but it was designed to be a contract person. And the new job description I'm seeing tonight is a systems administrator, bringing in all these new programs that we as a township are trying to do to come up to the current technology. My hope is that by implementing this technology, we're getting more efficient and less reliant on people. So I'm wondering if we're allocating another person in software, does that mean each department should have savings in administration in their departments, that we can realize those savings somehow? So we're not just adding one more salary to the organization. And the second part of that is, as we bring in these new programs, hopefully the finance is well underway on their new software. When we get 12 months or 24 months from now, the major upgrades are done. Is this job, I guess, going to work themselves out of a job, and therefore a 1 to 2 year contract is more appropriate for the position in the township and the ability then to save some money in a couple of years' time? Or are we boxing ourselves in by making this a full-time hire today? I think going forward, 27 budget, we're going to be looking for dollars everywhere. This is a position that I'm reluctant to, I guess, commit to today when maybe we don't need to.
Clerk Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I don't mind saying that I do think there is an ongoing need for this position. Essentially, what a lot of time happens at the township is, if you look at our new human resources software, I don't believe we provide enough support to staff that are implementing software like that. They end up spending a lot of time and energy doing that work, which is important work and needs to be done. And of course, justify the work that needs to be done. But what typically happens is staff are being pulled away from their regular jobs doing some of the other work, and in HR there's a lot of reporting and policy updates that council's asked for. It pulls them away from their core work, and in some ways is asking them to do software implementation that they're not familiar with or comfortable with, or maybe they've done it once before, but it's not part of their routine. So I would say it's not necessarily, you're going to find a whole lot of time. It's maybe we didn't realize how much time it was to implement software. We're being pulled away from the core responsibilities. So this would allow, I would really phrase it as allowing staff to focus on their core responsibilities. I'm not sure there's going to be too many efficiencies in terms of, this person's going to save this amount of time, this person's going to save this amount. But I could definitely look into that further. What I'm thinking more than anything is it does allow staff to focus on that core. It hopefully will help us implement new software quite a bit better. And then, Barry can speak to this a little bit more, but A small project, we're looking at upgrading our GIS software. We don't have the expertise to do that in-house, so we're looking at potentially having to spend additional money that wasn't budgeted for to do that work. So we just want to make sure we don't have those, unforeseen challenges when we run into software implementations or upgrades, that we can do that in-house and it doesn't cost the township more money.
Mr. Brenneman.
Yeah, I'll just fast forward to the next presentation in a way in the transformation and continuous improvement journey and suggest a couple things for council's consideration. Some discussion here tonight has been talking about the future and forward-thinking technology, and certainly there is opportunities with that. But what the transformation continuous improvement journey has shown is that there are lots of examples of the implementation of very silo decision-making with respect to technology. And, I believe the immediate impact in terms of better efficiency comes from making sure that we use better use of the existing technology that we have to modernize some of our systems and to simply stop the individual department-based decisions. I can tell you on this journey and what this journey has shown is that, and even this has evolved this year, is that, we've had departments, initial drafts of the budget advance certain solutions that by being on this journey, we have said, no, aren't there other options with respect to existing technology? Lo and behold, some of the changes keep coming back to, yeah, we could be more efficiently using Citywide. Citywide is a tool that's predominantly used by infrastructure services and operations with respect to work order and customer service requests and then work order type of system. But what we found is that there's an opportunity, if this position was onboarded, to be able to have us use Citywide to be able to help us do better from a customer service tracking and response standpoint. Because I know one of the things council is always concerned at, how are we really doing with respect to customer service and our ability to respond quickly and effectively? In the absence of having a system and the data, that's difficult to come back to you with respect to that. The other thing is this kind of picks up a little bit on what the journey has shown from some of what Mr. Smith has noted, and that is right now, often what happens is somebody within the existing department, and that could be, I'll pick one department, can be in the past the supervisor of bylaw enforcement, taking the reins and doing the whole technology analysis, and moving forward on the implementation. But that silo-based focus had led us to a point where we've got all these different systems. I'm not sure we need all the different systems. They need to talk better with each other. More than likely right now, the assessment has shown we're probably duplicating information with respect to people, addresses, information, and data inputs that we are. So I think I'll stop there. I just wanted to add that I think it's important for council and the public to be aware that there is a direct tie between this work that the Corporate Services Department did, more specifically with respect to IT, back to the transformation and continuous improvement. And even part of that was to say, you know what, we can do a better job when we have a vacancy to look and say, is there a better way to provide service, to be more effective, to be more efficient? And right now, simply put, in conclusion, my concern is the journey to date in terms of continuous improvement has demonstrated is we have not been as effective as an organization with the introduction of technology because it's been fragmented and based on individual department needs, as opposed to a more holistic look at what our corporate-wide needs are. So that's, that's where I see, just from my lens of the transformation continuous improvement, having someone that can provide that holistic oversight would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Brenneman. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Burgess?
Through you, Chair, if I can just echo what the CAO said. Yeah, in my last 4 years, I always hesitant to hire people, and this isn't even a hire, it's just a shifting of position. But I think they've done exactly what council has asked here, and instead of just replacing someone in the same position, they stepped back and said, how can we best support our township, our changes that what council has asked? And I think they've done that. And not only that, it's kind of classic small township that you got to wear many hats, and this guy's going to do IT help desk. He's going to do this software stuff. He's going to do AI implementation. He's going to be the guy that does everything. So I think that's very important. My day job, I work with lots of different companies, and I see firsthand all the time that guys that don't have proper IT support, or guys implementing and ongoing fixing changes and implementing new stuff, that they struggle to keep up. The market's very changing. We have this AI, and right now this township's in a time of change with all this new programming, all this updating we're doing with the GIS, the building software, the finance software. So I think this is very, very important. And there's even already been talk of timelines to implement all this as a multi-year process. So having more support, I think, is very important, and I appreciate the work they've done.
You had me wondering if you're going to move a motion there, Councillor Burgess, but thank you for that commentary. We do have the recommendation in the report to approve the new IT structure. Do we have any other discussion? Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Bryant. Further discussion, Councillor Schwint.
So hearing the conversation, I understand the intent and direction. It's back to how are we going to measure what we're learning or what we're improving by having this set up? Because I do understand what Councilor Burgess says about bringing stuff together and being more efficient, having that person. But if we're not saving on the other side, why invest in the program? It's supposed to make us better. And hopefully in your continuous improvement presentation, you can touch on that, Mr. Brenneman, but I want to make sure that that's always the focus when we're bringing in a new position or changing the name of it, changing the job function, that there's tangible results.
Very good. Well, if there's no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, Mr. Brenneman, thank you for foreshadowing our next report, 615. That is the last item on our agenda today, so I'll turn it over to CAO, David Brenneman.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just hopefully share my screen here. Okay, as council is aware, one of the things coming out of the budget process was to focus in on some work specifically related to concentrated transformation, continuous improvement work. This is the second quarter report. I want to provide in the way of an executive summary, just kind of where we're at, and where we've been, and some just overview comments. I think in terms of, some of the key points at the beginning of this presentation, it's in terms of what's working. I think, overall, we have a group of dedicated employees who need the support and the resources to be able to execute on their jobs. We have capable leadership that we need to continue to invest in and do better with respect to their professional development. We have systems to improve, which we've talked at great length tonight on a variety of fronts. There is certainly Director Lynn would like I would say this, greater momentum in finance. We can't keep pace sometimes with the rate that he would like, but that's good. It challenges us and the corporation. We've talked this evening as well about asset management and the shift to finance, and what has started to make improvements with respect to there. And certainly we've recently just talked about technology and the need for better, less silo and more working together in collaboration. In terms of what is changing, I think we all know that growth pressures with respect to Woolwich continue to be something that places a lot of stress and demands on the corporation. Legislation also does that, certainly thanks to the government. Bill 23, and the switch from the region and the area municipalities providing planning is a good example of additional stress and pressures. And the service expectations are increasing, and they continue to increase in terms of what the customers expect. And we need to make sure that we have processes, systems, and structures that make sure that we're able to keep up and adapt to our growing community. And, I reflected, as part of this journey on the fact that just as a community grows, it's important for us as an organization to grow in terms of a maturity, in terms of, we've talked this evening about other areas where better structure, better discipline, better accounting, and data is very important. So as the community grows and we're at this critical crossroads, so do we need to grow and mature as an organization. So I know in terms of what comes next, it's no doubt the most important thing for council and certainly the organization is to move from the first two phases, which has been about myself meeting with every single part of this organization in terms of at a senior management level, at a department level, at a fire station level, all throughout the organization to make sure people understand nobody has a monopoly on the best way forward, but together as a team, we're better off, in terms of getting input. But as part of this, we need to move from this information gathering and assessment, and we've started to do some of that, and I want to talk about those areas. But I do appreciate in the next phase report, what needs to be come back with, and Councillor Schwint was just touching upon some of this, is information with respect to, okay, if we're going to advance technology, what's the plan? Who's in charge? What are the expected outcomes and what are the timeframes, right? And that's part of our growth and maturity as well, not to say out there, hey, we need to do better with respect to corporate technology implementation. What does that mean in the next round of a report in terms of real action, real expected outcomes, timelines, and assignment of somebody in charge? Because that's the other part that I'm going to speak to tonight is clear responsibilities about who's in charge so there's no confusion and somebody's leading the initiative. It's not a couple of separate departments. It can be one, focused implementation. So why transformation now? Well, I've touched upon that, is we have a growing community and we have for some time. And, I reflected on the fact a little bit when some of us were down at AMO this year. There was just the talk at registration, I think it was, that, wow, maybe the Township of Woolwich shouldn't be going to the Rural Caucus. We sit more with the Ontario Small Urban Municipalities because we're in that, we're not a small township anymore. We're not a city, but we're a combination of both in a way, especially if, Deanne was to talk about, from a planning perspective, about where we're heading in terms of our overall growth and development. So why is this important now? Because we have for some years been at a critical crossroads in terms of not just being a small municipality with the influx of growth, with the influx of new people, different cultures, coming from different parts of this province. They have different expectations and we need to be mature in terms of our growth and development to be as efficient and effective in the delivery of our services and programs along with that growth. So what is growth really exposing, though, in terms of the pressures and the stresses on the organization? Certainly in terms of capacity, we have to move away from an organization that focuses more on the operational and more putting out the day-to-day fires and more time to do the strategic thinking and planning. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we faced, is the capacity to be able to make the time to be able to do that, so that we're not just thinking in the near term. You know, we're thinking longer term with respect to things, and we're not just wrapped up in the minutia that comes up with putting out day-to-day fires. Technology, we've talked a lot about that. I don't think I need to say more in terms of why that's important, and getting away from fragmented implementation. We talked tonight as well about the importance of facilities, and clearly one department, you know, being in charge of those sorts of those focused areas. Communication as well is important across an organization and as area of our maturity. And of course, we are running a concurrent process right now, which is we're knee deep into the 2027 budget process. And that was purposeful, because it only made sense that one of the pillars, you know, in the areas of focus was to be around our financial planning, our financial sustainability. And certainly with Mr. Lynn's onboarding, I think one of the first reports that he provided was developing a framework with respect to long-term fiscal sustainability. That needs to keep front and center with respect to our work. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say one of our most valuable resources that we need to continue to make sure we're investing in is our workforce in terms of leadership development, succession planning. And as part of that succession planning, doing a better job about knowledge transfer between the people that work here now and the people that will be working here, for the future. In terms of this quarter, I've characterized that the momentum is starting to build again from out of the information gathering and the assessment and the inputs and the feedback from all parts of the organization, to starting to look at the areas that we need to make improvements to be more efficient and be more effective. And some of the work that, you know, has been done over the course of Q1 and Q2, because, you know, this is just part of what we need to do on a regular basis in terms of improvement, is expanding online customer service offerings, offering self-service options. Certainly, I know it's one of the areas that Ms. Stoven looked at with respect to her onboarding, in terms of how do we make it more customer service friendly. And again, there have been other departments, but I use that as an example. We don't have time to go through all the various departments. Some of that was in the report. Technology, again, we need to continue to implement and optimize what we have now. I think it would be dangerous if we started embarking on all this brand new modern technology without taking a serious look at what we've got and optimizing it. I think most people know that a lot of organizations sometimes implement these wonderful software programs, but do they ever fully optimize the full extent of what they're able to do? I would argue that that's not the case. Collaboration across departments is very important, and it helps with operational alignment. And, you know, two of the departments that I've long felt, are naturals for coming together and looking at how staff resources and equipment can better be explored in terms of more efficiency and better collaboration, is with respect to infrastructure services and recreation community services. A lot of the same skill sets, a lot of the same equipment needs, there needs to be better streamlining with respect to making decisions about collaboration in those areas. Financial stewardship and asset management are also important. And We've started to make gains in there. There's more work to do, folks, though. Not just with respect to new software implementation, but even from a culture standpoint in terms of making sure all parts of the organization understand the importance of bringing finance along on the journey. No different than we bring other departments along on the journey with respect to any particular reports or projects. And certainly asset management, we've talked tonight, making improvements there with the realignment of asset management into finance, making it more corporate and holistic looking, and also starting to look at investments and making investments in our people leadership in terms of leadership development. So the progress is incremental, but we are making progress. Momentum is building. In terms of looking more specifically at some of the areas, as you recall, one of the key areas was how do we make sure we're doing the best job that we can with respect to customer service, and by virtue of that, the experience that the community feels. I think our current strengths is that we do have staff that care deeply about the services we provide. I think, though, with respect to what the current friction is, I wouldn't say for a minute that we have alignment in terms of how each department is aligned with respect to what the customer service expectations are in terms of some of the key principles around responsiveness, making things happen, being facilitative in nature. How can we help? These are all things that we need greater alignment on to reduce the confusion that we create with that lack of alignment with respect to the public. We can do better in that particular area. And so as we head into the next phase, one of the things that will be important is to start to develop a real corporate customer service roadmap. That will involve such things as looking at, the tools that exist. But initially, I want to be clear, some of the most important work that's already started is to look at an existing platform like Citywide, and how can we, on an interim basis, make that change very cost effectively and start to have a better understanding and a better tool to be able to respond from a customer service perspective to all of the issues that our residents and businesses bring forward. As well, there's expansion around the self-service end of things, but I also would add this. There's a concentrated effort as well to look at our historic model of really how we've been divided in terms of going to different stations downstairs on the front lines. Can we bring a more centralized approach? One of the things we've reactivated is called Customer Service Connections, which basically brings frontline staff from across the organization together. And one of the things we're consciously trying to do is to make sure, both electronically and even in paper format, give staff the tools on the front lines that can we not get to a space where not only can they answer the core expectations of what their department delivers, but also be able to answer some of the simple and straightforward, so we're not bouncing people from department to department to department. I think those are realistic goals. Outside of that, we've also started to implement the realities of, people have to come to town hall for this. People have to go to the Woolwich Memorial Center this. People have to go to the Breslau Community Center. We have an opportunity, with having an office, having a rec center, having a Breslau Community Center as well, to be able to have more offerings that people don't have to drive. I mean, yes, online is always the best go-to, but there is also the ability to what can be done in person at these various facilities. And those are areas of improvement. Now, can I say that makes us more efficient and effective? I think it's more about being effective in terms of being responsive to what our customer service needs and expectations are. Digital transformation is important. as well. I've mentioned citywide. There also is, we're also taking a look at whether we can and better optimize, and we can, City View. Certainly, we're trying to do better with respect to the implementation of UKG and those sorts of optimizations. We need to integrate, reduce that duplicate entry that I spoke about before. Make sure we have set standards for data, software ownership. That gets into the last discussion we've had. And really make sure that we're automating the use of our workflows, producing dashboards, analytics, and AI where they add value. And, you know, I can certainly say that with all the meetings that have happened across the departments, AI has been a very useful tool for my executive officer to be able to support me. You know, where in the past you would have had to done a lot of, you know, recording manually. You would have had to do a lot of cutting and pasting and merging things together. AI is a time saver and a cost saving saver. And by virtue of that, I think it enhances productivity to be able to move on to the next thing by lessening the amount of the traditional way of producing these sorts of reports, et cetera. Again, financial and fiscal sustainability is very important. We need to strengthen the long-term lens. Colm has said that time and time again. But the decision quality of what we do is very important. And I mentioned before, we need to embed it in the culture. And what we're speaking about here is embedding the financial review in everything that we do, from our major programs, our projects, our capital investments, our service changes, our contracts, and, you know, make it just normal part of the system. I think Colm would submit that if we move in this direction, there will be natural outcomes, hopefully, that finance can help to ensure that we are finding cost savings, we are finding efficiencies to be able to make new and improved and better decisions. It'll also be important, though, to do performance visibility in terms of clear objectives, clear targets, and accountable ownership. We've talked about that earlier tonight. And making sure that we're doing proper forecasting. And the escalation and reporting on financial and capital budget risk is important. Lord knows that Council has provided, I'll say, constructive feedback in that an area that we are just missing the mark. And I'll acknowledge that with respect to some of the recent situations we have found ourselves in. And certainly long-term, it will be to make sure that we have not just a one-year forecast or a one-year capital budget, but a 10-year capital plan. That needs to be the ultimate goal, a fully funded 10-year capital plan. It's been a difficult and hard journey, but it is one that's necessary. In terms of capacity, accountability, and workforce sustainability, I want to acknowledge and be very upfront. We have to discontinue the practice of just more singular looking at, you know, the justification for any one position. And what I mean by that is we have to be able to take an opportunity to take a step back and say, is our real need the addition of a staffing position or positions, or in some circumstances, is it about the process improvements that need to be made? What about the capabilities of the staff in various positions? How are we designed? Are we designed as effectively and structured appropriately to provide the best results? And do we have the best setup with respect to accountability? We can consistently say, oh, you know what? It's just a capacity issue. It's just a capacity issue. But I don't think we're doing our jobs. And I think this is part of a really good learning and growth opportunity for the organization to just say, hey, we need this position for capacity reasons, when we haven't taken a deep dive on whether there's other improvements and changes that need to be made with respect to how we operate as an organization. So certainly, you know, There does need to be clarifying roles around ownership, decision rights, project priorities, that will help reduce the duplication, et cetera. And we need to, as I said earlier, build leadership development and onboarding and succession planning. So the goal will be to ensure the right structure, the skills, the leadership capacity, and the resources are the highest focus of our priorities, not just the same old bringing forward the need for a position. Infrastructure, facilities, and asset management is very important as well, and we've talked about that tonight. But that only thrives, when we have the best asset data, when we have a good understanding of the growth needs, when we understand the corporate priorities around risk, service levels, and operational readiness. And ultimately, we'd be remiss if we didn't note it's important to understand financial capacity from a capital timing, from a reserves perspective, funding, and also an affordability. So the key phase 3 deliverable is the need for a process to develop a comprehensive corporate facility strategy. And what would that look like? Who would that be assigned to? And what the natural timelines and outcomes would be. And I want to continue to focus in on that's the natural for phase 3 of the process. In terms of fire services, sustainability, and emergency preparedness, one thing that's clear, should become as no surprise, is consistently our volunteers say, you know what, we don't do this for the money. We do this because we care about the community. We want to protect the community from a straightforward fire prevention and protection standpoint, but we also care about what we're giving back to the community. But what's clear in terms of the pressures for them is they expect for that dedication and that focus that they have appropriate resources to do their job, and they feel supported with respect to that. My hope is that also with the fire master plan running concurrently with this process, some good insights and objectives will come out of that that will help to improve some of these areas. So overall, in terms of what needs to happen with respect to a summary of phase 3 and the report that I would owe council before you leave office for this term is better corporate alignment and strategic oversight. I want to get specific there for a minute. What's important there is with respect to, you didn't see it last year with the budget process. That was the first year in a long time we hadn't. But we have always had a corporate business plan to show how we're implementing the strategic plan. But one of the areas we've talked about recently is that if we want to be better aligned as a team, better alignment in terms of making sure that we're sharing what the priorities are and be focused and aligned on those, we need to also start with the sharing and the development of our work programs. Those work programs will help with the building of the corporate business plan and then ultimately help with the implementation of the strategic plan. Because we don't want the time and effort that we put into the strategic plan at the start of this term to just be something that sits collecting, I'll use an old phrase, dust on the shelf. In terms of performance management and accountability, I touched upon that earlier, but just in a summary way, I think council needs to be comfortable that we're setting clear corporate priorities for the municipality. Objectives are tied to departments. There's accountability with respect to timelines and also reporting on the completion of the same. I know that's one of council's concerns in this term is to say, hey, where is this at? When's it getting done? Where's the accountability? And to make improvements there. Also in terms of roles, responsibilities, and structures, to bring greater clarity on who's in charge of any particular program and objective will be paramount. Corporate services excellence, by and large, we need to continue to up our game with respect to the area of customer service delivery. Technology, I've spoken about that at great length today, as I have on long-term financial sustainability. Organizational capacity and workforce, I just talked about that a few minutes ago, and that's just not adding positions without holistically looking at whether there's improvements that can be made before we just go ahead and add staff. The need for a corporate facilities strategy, and for that matter, to embed this formal continuous improvement work, not just the one and done, but continued on a regular basis. What are some of the realities and risks and trade-offs? Well, I've mentioned some of them tonight. At times there is the capacity constraints. Sometimes the realities of getting into the weeds too much and not having the strategic look. To move away from the technology fragmentation and also the facility limitations that we have found ourselves in. Knowledge retention will be important, as will workforce sustainability. As will service complexity and also volunteer sustainability. And we haven't talked about that much in the past, but I know that one of the things that council would like is to look at opportunities in the past where we have supplemented our resources with volunteers and the opportunities that exist with there to save dollars, but also look at opportunities where community can help us take ownership of some issues, while at the same time managing our risk and liability and the balance. So right now, in summary, we need to move from assessment and information gathering to implementation. We need to, through the next focus, I'll work with the team and the corporate leadership team on prioritizing actions, assign who will be responsible or which departments. We'll come back with establishing process for establishing better measures and benchmarks so we can track some of this work, phase the investment when it comes to our financial capacity, and report all of this in the next phase. Transformation, though, as I said a few moments ago, needs to be an ongoing commitment to ensuring the township continues to evolve alongside the community that's growing and the community that we all serve. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council has on the report or my presentation. But I understand, I've heard you in the past loud and clear. While the assessment is important and gathering the information from all parts of the organization, what will be really important in the next phase is to deliver on the actions that will implement some of this improved work to make us more efficient and effective, and to have us mature from a structure and discipline standpoint with the growing community that we call Woolwich.
Thanks for that presentation, David. Is there any questions for David? Councillor Schwinn.
Yeah, this is a long-term project that's really needed, so I'm glad we're doing it and the work you're putting into it. I'm curious, you've done your homework now. It's time to start. What's been the biggest surprise in the meetings you've had and what you've learned that surprised you? And where you are right now, how much do you think we can improve over the next 12 months in terms of efficiencies, and how big a transformation do you envision?
Yeah, fair question through you, Mr. Chair. I think I can provide an interesting perspective because of the length of time I've been here. And I think the biggest eye opener and the biggest awakening was the fact that, I started when the corporation was a lot smaller. And I think some things perhaps were taken for granted at the time, that communication just happened naturally because we were small enough that people collaborated and talked with one another, etc. But I would say the biggest wake up is that no, with the growth of the corporation, what really happened is with that growth is we didn't mature and grow with respect to making sure that we weren't making silo-based decisions that were maybe good for a particular department, but it wasn't taking a holistic lens, an organizational and a corporate focus, and too focused heavily on the department side of things. The other thing is, and this is also partly, I will give credit where credit's due with Mr. Lynn's onboarding, is I think the biggest reality, not just with the journey, but over the last number of years on the financial side, is that finance was, simply put, a tail end of a lot of processes, whether that was with respect to planning initiatives or infrastructure initiatives, or at times technology initiatives. Not enough finance is on the journey completely. And by virtue of that, I think we're in a better position, as my presentation said, to be able to make sure that the right questions are being answered with respect to whether this is, the right purchase. Is it going to achieve the objectives that we need to? And a critical lens that finance can be for the corporation. But I think what also was interesting is, I think I was asked by council, out of the 5 pillars of customer service, review of our municipal services and programs, financial sustainability and long-term planning, looking at innovation and technology, and also with respect to our organizational structure and resourcing. What this journey did confirm as well is, I think some of the biggest areas outside of what I just talked about in terms of our financial transformation and what needs to be done there, is the biggest area that we can make the immediate change is with respect to customer service improvements, and the introduction also related thereto with innovation and technology, and making improvements with respect to that. I think council, was rightly concerned. 5 pillars are great. They sound great, but let's not spread ourselves so thin that we're trying to achieve all things at the same time. We need to be focused in what we are looking to do. And I think those are the areas that I'm optimistic that we will be able to make meaningful change over the next year. And also, we have to look at, through the implementation of the budget, things such as how do we transform things like citywide and use existing tools? How do we do better with respect to how we're structured around customer service? Not just from an online perspective, but from a frontline perspective as well, in terms of the staff resources that we have in place. So, I think because I have that longer term perspective, is the eye opener was the maturity and growth that needs to really happen based on the size of organization we are and the size of community that we are. That's the best I can answer that particular question.
We heard a lot about digital transformation, optimizing the software we have before we look at other options. But I think, and you mentioned AI, not a big fan of it myself, but people say it's all the rage.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah, is there an implementation plan for that? Are we working on a policy to direct staff on how to properly use AI? And I hate to ask, but what would IT's position be on this?
Yeah, so I can answer that through Mr. Chair. So I've been trying to work with IT to implement or get staff more comfortable in using AI. We provided a guidance, sort of some guidance to them. I want to say it was April or May. I've actually been working with Colin to do some work in terms of training and stuff like that. We're working on 2 AI agents that I'm hoping will save some time, some staff time, and give us some better searching and things like that. So automating some of our procedures. So we are looking at that. I expect we will need to bring a policy to council eventually, just to give some more guidance on this. One of the things I've found is that our existing subscription within Microsoft, we don't have the ability to do some of the things like deploy agents that are, a little bit higher level. What I'd like to do is propose during budget a different AI provider. to give council a preview, the company is GovAI, which is really a company. It's kind of neat. It's a Canadian company. It's focused on providing AI for government organizations. And one thing is they have a lot of sort of pre-built agents that can be deployed very quickly. So that's kind of the way I see us adopting AI, at least the next little while. Does that answer your question?
And IT would typically follow that position?
Yeah, so IT does follow that position. I know they're concerned about things like making sure we're using it in the right cases. There's a lot of really good recommendations. You know, you don't use AI for legal advice. You don't use AI. I mean, obviously, you can't use AI for personal information that now you're sending out to the cloud and it's training its algorithms on that. So one of the things GovAI does is that it actually redacts that data before it even goes out if someone were to put it out inadvertently. So there's a lot of really good policies and procedures that other municipalities already have. I've done some looking into that. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel there to make sure that IT is comfortable with the guidance that we're giving to staff, with the policy that we eventually bring into place. And they're very supportive of the GovAI type model that would provide further protection to us.
Mr. Brenneman?
Yeah, just further to that, I wanted to reiterate that I know we had a great debate at senior management on whether a policy route was the right way to go initially. And we felt, no, let's set appropriate parameters and boundaries and make sure staff understand what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, but start to work with AI and see what it can do. And you know, I think there's, you know, I think there's lots of opportunities within certain good boundaries and parameters. You know, I think we've even found that we could start to do more with respect to, I'll just take, you know, senior management. You know, we take minutes as part of those meetings. How do we, you know, Ray takes minutes of those meetings. How do we actually use AI better to be more efficient, you know, with the use of that? You know, people have even experimented in a number of different areas with respect to, I mean, this is one of the areas you have to be careful, because I think you have to make certain declarations if you use AI with respect to your human resources and recruitment process. But there is possibilities. There's great possibilities that, again, will eventually help us. To Councillor Schwint's constant ask is, how much time has it saved? Translate that into what the cost savings are, not just in terms of time savings, but dollars saved. And then how does that translate in the fact that you're able to move through onto the next thing, and that produces better overall productivity? So I think the moral of the story was, we want to test things out, but it's better to try things out, to embrace the opportunities, than it is to resist change. To explore change is better.
Thanks for that. Mayor Shantz?
Thanks. I just wanted to say thank you, David, for taking this on. I know it's been a big part of your time commitment the last while, and also to staff for participating. And I think even this evening we've seen, at least I saw, maybe I was looking for it, but in the reports that we heard, I don't know if it's a change, but maybe a little different focus on how reports are coming and how the work's being done. So thanks.
All right, so that brings us to other business. Mayor's report on regional matters.
I'll just, we came back from AMO, Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference, and I participated, David and I, well, I participated in some and we participated in some together, delegations. And just to highlight a couple, the township specifically did one delegation where we advocated for funding for the St. Jacobs Arena. And I think we came away with some insights into what they're looking for the grant applications. And so hopefully that will help us write a successful grant application. They also said that it was oversubscribed last time and they expect it to be oversubscribed again. So we're going to have to be, have to do a good job. I participated in a number of regional delegations as well. There was the one that I think struck a chord with most of us, even from the region and for me as well, was with Minister Fedeli. And we presented on expansion of the aerospace component of the airport, and he was very taken by that and very engaged in that. So that was encouraging that we may get more support for that part. And the other thing, we did a delegation with the city of Kitchener, again, advocating for Highway 7 and all-day two-way go and the Breslau station. So it's, you know, you never quite know what you're going to end up with out of that. But, you know, being in front of the ministers, I think is always a good thing. I know Bonnie and Evan were there as well, and maybe they want to report on some of that.
You kind of said exactly what I was going to say. Meeting with those ministers is very beneficial and got some insight on how to get some funding and just showing as to the two-way go and the Highway 7, they just reiterate again the importance this area and that project is to them, along with Highway 413 and Brantford Bypass. They're not playing favorites, but we're up there and yeah, we're working on it. And there's stuff being done on Highway 7, a little bit's going on.
Yeah, just to continue on with that discussion, I think the comment about 413 and the Brantford bypass was important, but also staff that was in attendance did say that the work is proceeding with respect to two of the bridges that need to be completed. And they said that hopefully will be the sign that people know it's taking time, but it will have to happen, because if not, we'll have two bridges to nowhere, quite simply put. And that probably would be significant investment. We know what the cost of bridges are, et cetera. But anyways, I think we'll have to keep a sense of optimism there. I'd also mention that we had an opportunity as the 4 townships to do a joint delegation with Minister McCarthy on the need for stable, reliable, predictable funding. But again, we've continued to advocate for municipalities and for them to go away from having small communities funding for 100,000 and less and to lower it to 50,000 and less, so that municipalities our size and similar to the townships in the region have a better opportunity to access much needed, stable, reliable, predictable infrastructure funding. We also had an opportunity to, as 4 townships, along with the region, originally it was going to be an ask of the government with respect to, hey, what's happening with the transit application for funding for the rural transit strategy implementation, which would have brought new routes to Wellesley and North Dumfries, or will now, but also expand from a customer service expectations, the routes that exist in Woolwich and Wilmot. So we pivoted the delegation to say thank you for providing that funding, because the concern certainly from some residents and even businesses was that, and Woolwich and Wilmot in particular, been hearing that, hey, when are those changes going to happen? Because you have to meet the customer service expectations, not just of the residents, but also some of our businesses, especially we've heard over the years in the stockyards with respect to part-time help, et cetera. getting them to and from their jobs is really critical, important. And we can't ever forget the importance of how that's in support of business as well, and business retention and expansion. I thought it was also important, because we all attended a number of different sessions, but I think one of the biggest takeaways that astronaut Chris Hadfield moderated was with respect to the realities, and we're seeing it this summer, extreme weather events, and the fact that we have to do a better job in terms of planning and implementing our infrastructure to be able to deal with those realities, because I think they are current realities. And I think the people in Niagara region this year would echo the fact that the old infrastructure just can't keep up with the realities of climate change and the extreme weather events that have to happen. So we have to plan our infrastructure and have them built for extremes, and that's going to take some bold leadership and planning. There was also an interesting panel discussion with respect to, and this was near and dear to something that I've often raised in this council chambers, and I always relate back to AMO's report on the 1% of the sales tax to deal with the municipal infrastructure deficit. At this particular session, the main message back on this panel was, we need a new municipal fiscal deal and reality. We can't continue in this modern day with the extent of services and programs that have consistently been the municipalities expected to deliver. We cannot live with the traditional assessment and tax system. It just is not doable from that standpoint. And the last thing I would do is say that probably I would say one of the most entertaining plenary sessions was 4 people that are on a regular podcast, Curse of Politics, and they explored everything from the impact of what's happening in the States and the trade negotiations with respect to Canada, with respect to, I'll just say, federal politics in general. And I'm missing one of the last areas. Can you remember, Bonnie? Anyways, no, that was the federal politics that I was just summarizing. Anyways, so I would say that consistent with my past experiences, the balance that I think we see with respect to AMO is we are afforded an opportunity to do advocacy on a number of issues. We have been far more successful than in the past by the 4 townships going together. For that matter, the 4 townships in the region. And even as the mayor noted, we are also involved in a delegation with Fidelia on the airport, and the opportunities were there. That provides an opportunity. And I think some of the sessions this time around were better than I've seen with respect to the offerings that provide on a professional development standpoint. But I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that, with the fact that you've got 2,000 delegates from across the province, there also has been a good opportunity this time around to network with a lot of politicians and senior staff in terms of sharing some of the trials and tribulations that we're all dealing with, and being able to just basically say, hey, how are you approaching, these sorts of issues from your city or town perspective. So that's my help in terms of looking at some of the areas. Sorry, I did mention one. I forgot to mention one other area that I personally attended was with respect to the fact that the realities of what we face with the trade negotiations with the states, the realities that we still seem to be in uncertain times, diversifying our economies in our municipal levels will be very important, and that is certainly needs to be a focus of development services and our economic development officer in terms of supporting industry in our area. That was one of the concurrent sessions that I attended that I think was very informative in terms of not only having the plan, but making sure you have the data to be able to support that diversification of the local economy.
Well, Councillor Bryant, I was going to ask if you had anything to add, but after David's description, I'm going to say no.
The only thing I will say is that it was consistent from the opening remarks by Ottawa right to the end that we all need more funding. We heard that time and time again throughout the whole conference.
Something that we can agree with at this
Yes.
council chambers. Mayor, do you have any other matters? You're good. Before we get there.
I have a question, Amos, though.
Okay, have at her.
Just following up on Amos, I'm glad we had those presentations and you're putting our case forward. As a cabinet minister, I think I'd be overwhelmed after day one with everyone asking, give me money, give me money, give me money. But it's a great opportunity to network and get that first meeting. What's our follow-up plan to meet, specifically on the St. Jacobs project and DC charges for, as we know, the wet well and everything else? How do we follow up with the next meeting?
First of all, as the mayor noted, I think really based on the advice that we received on the St. Jacobs Arena, we have some homework to do here at our end. Because I guess I'll just expand a little bit for the public at home. The main message was to be competitive. We need to develop not just how we're going to upgrade the facility, but how we make it 365-day. I mean, they said, for lack of a better way of saying it, a 365-day-a-year facility. So how will we expand upon the opportunities that either these upgrades or improvements that we make be able to do that? But I would say then on both fronts, tomorrow I have an opportunity to talk with our MPP on both fronts. One will be about the arena. I did forward him our delegation briefing prior to the conference. So he was aware of that, but he was leaving for a conference in British Columbia. So we weren't able to talk there, but we've set up something for tomorrow. And that also will be my opportunity to see if there are any opportunities with respect to the development charges reduction program that we are all asked to apply for, and the outcomes with respect to that. I think I need to leave it at that for now.
The only comment I have is thanks to those who represented Woolwich. I think that the question I have is, how can this council be informed around the delegations before AMO, if that's possible? I know that this has come up in the past.
Yeah, so good point. I think the simple answer is, even though they provide often short windows, it's not so short that in terms of transformation and continuous improvement, we probably should structure a time frame in the corporate calendar, the agenda forecast. We know roughly the time of year that we're asked to submit delegations, that we have an opportunity to canvass all of council as to what ministers, what areas would you like to delegate. That will provide an opportunity to come with a set of recommendations, but that doesn't mean that council couldn't add to it as a group. So that's where we need to improve.
Any other council reports or updates? Councillor Schwint?
Yep. We learned yesterday as council that Farmers Market Road's been closed for a CN upgrade in the rail crossing. And I know information's sparse coming last minute. I talked to the market today. They were fairly concerned about effects on their operation. Curious if staff have an update for us. I was told there should be an updated timeline given the township today. I wonder if that happened from CN and what contingency plans we have with the market in terms of signs, directions, that type of thing, communications we've had with them to try and make this as painless as possible? And then second part, what's the budget ramifications going to be?
See that you have appeared on virtual TV there, Jared. Director
Yeah.
Poupe, sorry.
Thank you, through you, Chair Cadeau, to Councillor Schwint's question and to Council. We are dealing with an unanticipated road closure, as Councillor Schwint indicated. We are managing as best we can. We have provided emergency notification, and we have spoken with the farmers market. I had a couple calls with them today. We have not received any updated information from CN, given our last correspondence regarding their time or schedule. And I would suggest that anything else we discuss on the matter would be in camera.
Would that include any advice to residents who may be obstructed in their pathway? And, you know, who should they, I guess, be sending their questions or concerns to, if not us?
No, through to you, Chair Cadeau. Residents are advised that the closure is on Farmers Market Road. It would be in between Benjamin Road and Weber. You do have access to Walmart. You do have access to the Value Village parking lot there. There is access to the stockyards, but there is no through traffic. Sidewalks are closed as well, which we witnessed today was obviously a challenge on a market day. As far as we know, the closure, I can confirm the closure occurred Sunday. And it is anticipated to remain closed until Friday. That's unfortunately 2 market days. So we did see some impacts today, obviously, and just ask that people who are attending the market on those days that they park appropriately and ensure that they account for the closure at the crossing.
Okay, thanks, Director Poupe. Any other questions, updates? No? Well, that brings us to the end of our regular council meeting then. Would anyone like to motion to adjourn? I'm up here, so I can. Councillor Grant, seconded by Mayor Shantz, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. On behalf of council, we thank all of those who watched the meeting and those who took the time to participate tonight. Good night, everyone.